Archbishop Desmond Tutu's final wishes were to lie in the cheapest available coffin, which was pine, and for his remains to return to the earth in the least harmful possible way. According to Google's analytics, interest in aquamation increased 100-fold after the Anglican Church confirmed that the Arch didn't opt for a traditional cremation. Instead of fire, the aquamation process uses heat, pressure, and water. So to explain the process, we're joined by Avbob's Funeral Services, who brought the method to South Africa for the first time in 2019. General Manager of Corporate Affairs is Adriaan Betser, and he's live with me now. Adriaan, thanks so much for joining us. I'm actually fascinated by this because I do want to be cremated, because I'm scared I will otherwise be buried alive and scratch at the top of the coffin and lie there forever alive. But I have this fear of being burnt alive. So tell me, is this process a little better?
Yeah, good morning. I think the process per se is probably better just because it is a sort of a softer process. I can just from a funeral practitioner's point of view assure you that the time when anybody was going to be either buried alive or cremated alive is definitely long gone. That may have been something that could have happened 200 or 300 years ago, but certainly not today. We make really sure. But yes, the process is substantially softer. In essence, it's the same thing that would happen if you were to lay a body in a stream of running water. Over time, the soft tissue would simply break down into all the basic building blocks of life, and the body would be carried off. So in this case, it just happens under high pressure in that stainless steel tube that you just saw there. And we use high temperature water with a high level of alkalinity, which we achieve through adding potassium hydroxide to the water. We get an alkalinity level of about a pH 14, and that helps us to break down the soft tissue in about 4 or 5 hours, depending on the size of the deceased. And then what you are left with is basically just the calcium, the bone material that remains behind, which is then dried and basically grounded into a very fine powder and given back to the family in the form of ashes.
How expensive is this process compared to a traditional cremation?
The capital layout is substantially more expensive than flame-based cremation. But as an organization, it has been our decision from day one that we would like to have the processes priced more or less equally. So in future, it will probably become slightly more expensive. At the moment, we don't want people to make the decision based on pricing. We want them to be able to make a decision based on what is right for them or what they feel is right for them. So, you know, if earthen burial is what you would prefer, then that shouldn't necessarily cost you more or less than another option. And so too, flame-based cremation or water-based cremation, pricing is not the decision point at this time.
Adriaan, I mean, I haven't been investigating of how my mortal remains are going to be disposed of, but I haven't heard of aquamation before. How many people are actually taking it up in South Africa? How many families, should I say?
Well, so we only have one facility at the moment. It was launched in November 2019. At the time, I must admit, eNCA actually did 2 stories with me on aquamation. So we did at the time, I think, do our best, and we still do advertise the option of aquamation, but it is still localized. Only offered in Maitland in Cape Town through our company at the moment. We are currently installing a second facility in Pretoria. Our board has given approval for us to actually roll out 10 facilities throughout the country in the coming years. So at the moment, it is taken up. We only have capacity to do about 50 water-based cremations in a month anyway, through this one facility. And that capacity is more or less taken up every month. So there is already substantial numbers of people who feel that this is a better option, and this is an option that they'd like to use.
All right, thank you so much. Well, it was news to me when I heard about it at the Archer's funeral. Thanks so much for explaining it. And it sounds like as you say, a gentler, perhaps gentler option.